Well, thank you very much for coming to our presentation. We are the AIM study team, and we're very happy to be one of the three projects that we're part of the initiative that focuses on older adults. So we are here to talk to you about this work that we did. I will give an overview of the project, and then some of the other members of our team will talk about some of the findings and implications of the research. So we wanted to recognize that we are also have many other team members who are part of our work. We are based in currently we are based in the Maritime provinces of Canada, and we very much recognize the funding we receive from the Public Health Agency of Canada to do this work. So just a little bit about the background of why we focus on women in midlife and older who've experienced intimate partner violence. So we know that there is less emphasis in both the research literature that's available, services that are devoted specifically to this population as well, compared to other groups in society. I say these second two statements a lot, that they do require a little bit of explanation. So I say that there's ageism in domestic violence and family violence research and services. And what I mean by that is that there's not much focus on older adults in these particular areas. If you are working in these areas and you do focus on older adults, wonderful. We acknowledge that, and we are very grateful for that. But also there's sexism in elder abuse research and services. A lot of times when people talk about the mistreatment of older adults, literature and research and services, we don't talk much about sex and gender-based analysis and needs of people of various different sexes and gender identities. So we work really at this intersection of the mistreatment of older adults world and the family violence world. So that's really where we fit. We know that abuse of all in all forms is underreported, including the abuse of older adults, and we do expect that older women are even less likely to report abuse than younger women. We don't focus too much on the specific forms of abuse or the ways that violence is exhibited because it can take many different forms, and in often cases, people do experience more than one form of abuse at a time. Also, I wanted to just give a bit of context about the kind of the type of dynamics of these relationships. So, often when I talk about this topic in general, the first context that people think about is a relationship that's a very long term abusive relationship. So, that's certainly one situation. But over time of doing this work, we've identified three additional contexts, and there might be more as well. So an older woman could be experiencing abuse that is a new relationship that began in later life. So it's not a really long-term relationship, but a newer relationship. Abuse could also be experienced throughout different relationships over time. And also, the fourth one is kind of interesting as well, a longer term relationship that became abusive over time. And that could be due to a variety of factors, including potentially changes with health status over time, especially cognitive status due to dementia or something like that. So we were responded to this call for proposals from the Public Health Agency of Canada. It feels like a long time ago now, the summer of 2022, on preventing addressing elder abuse. And as I said, we were very happy to be part of this particular initiative, looking at health and violence and aging. So it was one of those things when I received this notice about this opportunity. I couldn't not apply because it was like someone wrote this for me. So it was just fabulous that we're part of this initiative. It also followed really nicely from a project our team had been just finishing up. The publication process, there's a time lag there, but we had done the work of doing a systematic review where we really were doing a synthesis of interventions for inter partner violence that could be conducive during a COVID context where so there was much less emphasis on having to do everything face to face and effective interventions that could be done in other ways. So often some sort of technology mediated support. So we identified a really interesting initiative by Tuari and colleagues that we modeled the AIM program after. So the AIM program is a very highly individualized and tailored study, which we know is very a program, which we know is very important to be able to do that because people have different needs. And we really wanted to focus on meeting the diverse needs of older women in the maritime provinces. So, the program that we developed has two components. The first is an information sharing component. So, trained facilitators, which was also a large part of what we did, was training facilitators to deliver this. Just a 1 hour virtual information sharing session, really geared to what the older women needed. I think I'm going in and out in terms of sound here. Hopefully, you can hear some of what I'm saying, but it's all on the screen as well. So, this first session was really about sharing information. Very importantly, just what is an abusive relationship, the characteristics of it. It's very interesting how many times we still hear that from women in our study, just understanding what are the characteristics of an abusive relationship. That piece is really important. Safety planning, decision making, problem solving, and providing information about local resources and services is very instrumental. The piece that I always found really fascinating about what Tuare had developed was the social support component. So after you do that first session, there were 12 follow-up sessions. So this was designed to be about a 20-minute check-in over once a week for 12 weeks. So that was a very interesting piece that Tuare found was showing some really promising results, and we wanted to implement that in the Maritimes to see what effect that would have as well. So we designed this as a randomized controlled trial with a qualitative component to test the impact of the AIM program on older women's knowledge about intimate partner violence, the impact of the two components on any changes in behavior, such as developing safety strategies, and also looking at the impact of the program on physical and mental health. So those were all quantitative measures. We also learned a lot that my team will talk to you about the in terms of some of the findings and implications. So we also interviewed both the people who facilitated the program and the women who participated in the program and learned a great deal from the qualitative elements of the study as well. So to be involved with our study, women who have to self-identify as a woman. The age criteria is interesting and a little bit fluid. Um, we focused in it obviously on women in midlife and older, but trying to operationally define that is a bit of a challenge. So, historically, in our work of our team over time, we often talk about women around age 50 and older. There's nothing magical that happens when a person turns 50 or whatever. So, over time with our project, we did identify women who were slightly younger than that to participate, and that was fine. We had several in our 40s. It's more of a qualitative difference of compared to younger women who are dealing with different issues. Many have young children and just different life stages and different things that they're dealing with. So there's no magical age, but we talk about women in midlife and older. Our focus was in the maritime provinces. We have had people who could facilitate this in English or French. And they also were either currently in an abusive relationship or in the process of leaving an abusive relationship. And we know that if any of you work in this field, that's a process and that can go on for a long time. And we didn't try to limit any other kinds of services that they were using or programs. In fact, we were referring them, the facilitators were referring them to other kinds of programs and services available. So, am I moving? Who's taking over now? Alfred.
We'll pass along the mic and come back to you. So I will continue to talk a little bit about the data that we collected in this study. We collected both quantitative and qualitative data. For the quantitative side, since we had like a control group and intervention group, we collected data at a baseline, so at the start of the implication of the women's in the program for both group, and then we followed up a 3-month follow up after the completion of the 12 weeks program for the women in the intervention group, and after 3 months after the baseline for the control group, and we did that again for the 9th month follow up. In terms of qualitative, like Lori said, we interviewed both the program's participants, either if they were in the intervention group or the control group, as well as the program facilitators who have delivered the program to the women in the community. And for the results I will present today, we're gonna present the findings from the baseline in the 3 months, and as well as what we found with the interviews with the program participants. To highlight some of the participant characteristics, most women were living rurally, either in mostly in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, but some from PI as well. Most were age from midlife, which we had participants ranging from 44 to 59, and some older and then 60 as well. Um, we had quite a small sample of people that were linguistic or gender diverse in ethnic diverse population as well, but we reached some. Um, in terms of education, we had highly education like population with mostly having higher than high school diplomas. And most of our participants were either separated or divorced, which was a criteria for which matched the criteria for the study, which was to be in the process of leaving or have left a relationship.
Okay, so in terms of survey instruments, we used 6 different surveys. And like Allison mentioned, we did survey intake before folks participated. At the end of the first intake, we did a randomized, so it determined whether or not they were in the AIM program or whether they were in the control group. Then we went back and did surveys again at 3 months and then again at the 9-month follow-up as well. So there were 6 that we focused on. The first one is the decisional conflict scale, which measures participants' perception of their uncertainty in making a choice about leaving their abusive relationship. So measuring kind of where people are at in terms of leaving the situation that they're currently in. The second was the Women's Experience of Battery Scale, which measures the severity of the intimate partner violence that our participants were experiencing. The third is the interpersonal support evaluation list, which measures perceived social support, so people that they might have in their lives and the community that surrounds them. The fourth was the intimate partner violence strategies index, which measures the use of safety strategies. The third is the Center for Epidemiological, which is a tongue twister, that studied depression scale, which measures their depressive symptoms. And the sixth is a short form health survey, which measures the quality of life. So as of right now, we have analyzed the quantitative data until the 3-month portion. We have now taken in the 9-month follow-ups, and we're in the process of taking a look at those. But where we are right now shows that for the delusional conflict scale, show that both groups were experiencing less conflict in their decision to leave their abusive relationship at follow-up, with the control group showing just a slight advantage. The women experiencing battery showed that the IPV severity decreased across both groups at follow-up, with the control group again showing a slight advantage. ISL showed that both groups perceived an increase in social support on all subscales at follow-up, with no major differences noted between the two groups. The IPVSI showed that the intervention group used more safety strategies at follow-up compared to the control group. The CESD showed that both groups improved the severity of their depressive symptoms, with the control group showing a slight advantage. And the SF12 showed that both groups declined in their physical health scores and improved in their mental health scores. and showed the intervention group had an advantage in physical health, and the control group had a slight advantage in mental health.
In terms of the interviews that we did with the participants, the purpose was really to explore how was the AIM program for them. Like I said, we both interviewed some that received the social support component and some that didn't, and also to explore what they would recommend for the further development of the program, and to highlight different things that they would have needed. Um, the key questions that we asked the participant were to first describe any of the family violence services that they have used in the past, and kind of compare that with their support that they have received from the AIM program. Um, and also to share their general experience with the program, what they have uh, appreciated, and what aspects were maybe least helpful, or that could use some adjustments and modification. And also to hear about what kind of suggestion that they have for not only the AIM program, but in terms of services for the women who are experiencing family violence, um, in for the future. We successfully reached 20 participants that were interviewed from June of last year to January 2025. The interviews really varied in term of length, with a mean of 36 minutes. The participants that were interviewed reflected the sample that we had for the study as well, with ages from 45 to 69. And after that, we conducted a thematic analysis. We read again the transcript of the interviews and coded the data for some common themes across the interview, which we will continue with that.
Yeah, so we'll go over our qualitative results now. And our first theme was kind of that background where we asked them about sort of their experiences with other family violence supports, and to help us identify what women's support needs were, women in midlife and older. So we're going to sort of briefly discuss their needs of uh, financial needs and housing needs, needs for legal aspects in their separation and divorce, their need for safety and protection, and their social and emotional needs.
And then the second theme is how the AIM program met women's needs in terms of helping them recognize and process abuse, supporting them through the separation process, helping women heal and move forward with their lives, and providing tailored information and resources to them.
And for the team three that will present, I'll discuss what was shared from the participant about how the program can be improved. They mostly shared that they would have liked different follow ups, and also peer support components.
Okay, so just sort of talking generally about women's support needs, women reported various barriers related to finances and securing safe and affordable housing after leaving the abusive relationship. Many participants discussed that they were enduring ongoing or long term financial abuse from their ex partners that impacted their daily lives and their ability to move on after leaving the abusive situation. Um, and then additionally, some participants discussed the need for more appropriate housing options for women in midlife and older. So, just to uh, give you an example, one participant said, there's no place to transfer me to put me in a normal apartment right now. I wouldn't be able to afford the rent, right? I go to bed every night in the place that this abuse happened in. And then another woman said, I still don't have a license. I've been putting it off because I need to pay bills. I can't afford the renewal fee. I left with a bag, the things in my back. I didn't have my wallet, nothing. So just sort of illustrating the financial hardship that women are faced with in this circumstance. Additionally, some participants discussed legal matters and the need for support throughout the separation and divorce process, which was oftentimes directly related to the ongoing post separation abuse that they were enduring from their ex partners. Um, Participants discussed the difficulties with the length of time that it takes for legal settlements and the cost of court retainers as barriers to carrying out legal matters after experiencing IPV. The first quote there is just illustrating how one woman's ex partner had been withholding her children from her, and she had to wait to go to court to get them back. And then another participant said her ex partner had ran up well over 65,000 of debt in both of their names just since she left. This is all just in the last few months. I'm basically losing money hand over fist right now while things are being settled or being sorted out on the legal front. Similar to women's legal needs often not being met in a timely manner, women reported various ways that service providers were not providing them with the safety and protection that they needed after leaving the abusive relationship. So one participant said, and I kept getting left down one after the other. Like the police said will give you, a 24-hour call button, and then they never gave that to me. And another participant said, I have been in an extremely dangerous situation. Parole has been violated, referring to her ex partner. Weapons. So while he has been released on conditions, the RCMP have been terrified because they can't protect us. We're too far out. I'm virtually living in a prison. I have the security. I have taken advice from everyone that I could. I have alarms, cameras, security lighting. I have an escape plan. I need information. I need to know when this person's being released, how, when, what is the impact, what conditions. I don't consider that to be too wrong for us, referring to her and her children. And sort of the last piece that I'll touch on for women's support needs, kind of in general, is their social and emotional needs, which was a persistent theme across the interviews. So the impacts of the long-term abuse on on their social and emotional health. Many women discuss struggling with reaching out for help socially and socially isolating themselves during the time that they were in the abusive relationship, and then also after when they were trying to heal from it. And this kind of represents a segue into talking about our social support program.
So the second theme that came up in the interviews was how the AIM program was able to meet women's needs. Sorry. So the subtheme encompasses the various ways that the participants discussed how their facilitators helped them in both recognizing and understanding the abuse that they had endured from their partner. This included discussions when women were struggling to identify as a victim of intimate partner violence, discussions surrounding the various manifestations of IPV, and recognizing abusive behaviors and helping women to understand and process the negative impacts of the abuse they had endured. Um, so the quote just here says, she, the facilitator, really helped me understand the emotional, psychological, spiritual abuse is a real thing and what it looks like and how it affects you, and that it's normal to feel the way that I felt. And knowing that I wasn't alone, that this was a thing that a lot of women experience, and to see it for what it was and to say, like, oh my God, it makes so much sense now. Going back 20 years, going back 10 years, going back 5 years, it was like I can see it now. Participants also discussed receiving support through the separation process. Um, they discussed how the facilitator was able to help them navigate various formal supports and processes that they were utilizing to deal with their separation from their partner, such as helping them navigate the legal system and supporting women throughout the court proceedings. Some participants also discussed how their program facilitator encouraged them to reach out to other sources of formal support, such as lawyers and counselors. Women also discussed how the facilitators helped them heal and move forward with their lives in terms of social, emotional, spiritual healing process and help them move past the abuse. This included discussing ways to maintain personal boundaries in relationships and encouraging women to engage in self-care practices. And lastly, for the second theme, our participants discussed that forms of tailored information and resources that their facilitators provided with them throughout their time in the AIM program that was really appreciated. Participants also discussed programs and additional supports that their facilitators had suggested for them. Yeah.
Very briefly, I'll touch on the recommendations that we heard from the participants. I think we heard like a lot of very positive feedback from the participants in our program. So much so that they would have liked the program to be even longer in terms of the number of session and as well as the length of the session itself. And like we said, it was supposed to be 20 minutes, but some were hours long. You know, if you have someone that really needs supports, it's really hard to cut them off. And you know, if it might be the only social support that they have as well. So we heard that from our facilitators as well. Um, and also we heard that the women, there's really a need to connect between women. So to add a peer support component is definitely something that they have recommended and suggested for us to improve the program with.
And I'll really quickly just touch on our conclusions here, looking at implications for practice. So, our findings really illustrated the value of the social emotional support for women, making them feel believed, validated, and to help them process and heal from abuse. And really highlighted the importance of flexibility, consistency, and sensitivity when providing supportive programming to women in midlife and older, and the use of a trauma and violence informed approach. And just switch to the next slide. Future research, our team hopes to really look further into this and by scaling up and spreading the program across Canada and incorporating that peer support component that sounded really important to participants to have them to help the social isolation and connect with peers who are going through similar experiences and who have healed from similar circumstances. And just to sum up, really wanted to highlight that women who are in midlife and older have complex support needs and endure many barriers in their process of leaving an abusive relationship. And this sort of type of socio emotional support really positively impacted their lives. Thank you.